But we're in a situation where we have a Justice Secretary who has no grip. Let's talk to Mark Hammersley, retired prison governor. Mark, is anything I've said unfair?
No, I think you've summed it up quite well, Peter. It's atrocious what has happened, and it's an embarrassment all round for anybody involved. I think, like you, I don't know the circumstances of this actual case, but after recent events and after so much publicity and so much increased scrutiny and increased checks for something to be what seems like something to be repeated very quickly in another prison is embarrassing beyond belief, really. Yes, it's hard. It's hard to, I've been on your show a few times and I've explained some of the procedures that are hugely complicated with involving releasing prisoners, which is true. Working out prisoners' release dates is very, very complicated, and it's not something Joe Public can do. However, in spite of all that, you can't carry on making mistakes like
Mark,
this.
Why would it be the case that the police wouldn't have been informed? Surely, if a prisoner is released in error, maybe they didn't work it out for 6 days. I mean, that's the conclusion many people will draw, because surely if you're running a prison, you lose a prisoner or you release someone who hasn't been released and you don't realise, surely the first thing you do is ring the police and say, we've made a mistake, there's someone on the loose, try and find them.
Yeah, for sure. Again, we're talking without full knowledge, but at the time they released him, obviously the people involved, having done all the checks, having done all the work, thought they were releasing him correctly. And I can only imagine it didn't come to light until this much time later. I'll be very surprised if they found out shortly afterwards they released him by mistake, but have kept it quiet for 4 days. I think that's very, very unlikely. More likely, I would imagine, is the mistake hasn't become known to a few days later. Because clearly, we are human. People do make mistakes. We're not perfect and this sort of stuff. But when you do things, you can make things worse or make things better according to what you do. And if you have made a mistake, you can't go back and undo it. But what you can do is let people know as soon as possible.
Yes.
To try and correct it. That you'd be, getting into even bigger territory if you tried to cover it up or not tell people. If you've done something wrong, you have to, you put your hands up. I've done something wrong, but this is what it is, and now you try and correct it and try and get other people involved, don't you? So I can only imagine it hasn't come to light until this much later.
And Wandsworth involved as well. We remember in September 2 years ago, 2023, Daniel Khalif was awaiting trial for spying for Iran. He escaped from the same prison after strapping himself to the underside of a food delivery truck. He was later arrested in Northolt 3 days after a huge manhunt. There was also a female prison officer who was filmed having sex with an inmate. Clearly, HMP Wandsworth has not covered itself in glory here either.
No, it's probably one of the worst prisons that it could happen to, with the amount of things that have gone on at Wandsworth, high profile things, and the amount of attention that it's had. There's not, I mean, it is another different incident that's happened at Wandsworth, but those incidents you talk of were both extremely embarrassing, extremely high profile, and for another one like this to happen in the same prison again is it couldn't have been worse. I don't think it couldn't have been a worse prison for it to happen to than Wandsworth, and that must be a very tough place.
Mark, thank you. That's Mark Hammersley, who's a retired prison governor. Thanks for joining us today. James in Devon says, isn't it time we had an independent Speaker of the House of Commons rather than the shambles we have now every week? Labour politicians don't answer the questions asked. Today, 5 times Lammy didn't answer questions in PMQs. The clue's in the name. And every week, whenever Reform MPs stand up, they get a barrage of abuse and prevented from speaking. It is an embarrassment. Well, I think I'm actually a reasonable fan of Lindsay Hoyle, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, who is certainly better than Billy Burkow, who was an absolute disgrace of a human being and is rightly banned from the Houses of Parliament for being an absolute tyrant and a bully and a horrible, horrible human being. The point with Sir Lindsay Hoyle is that when James Cartledge said at the end of Prime Minister's questions, hold on a second here, actually, he knew or at least should have known in terms of Lammy. The news is now out there. Surely we should pull him up on that through it's a parliamentary procedure called a point of order, and the Speaker denied it. So I think that was a big mistake. Lots more to report. In fact, we have some breaking news now. In that, sorry, this is actually unbelievable. Wandsworth Prison has released another prisoner in error. This was on the 3rd of November. So when was that? 2 days ago. This was on Monday. 35-year-old William Smith, who goes by Billy, was released by accident. He was sentenced to 45 months for multiple fraud offences at Croydon Crown Court, and on the same day he was released. I'm just taking this in here. This is a third person in the last 2 weeks, right? So you've got Billy Smith is his name. He goes to Croydon Crown Court. He's sentenced to 45 months for multiple fraud offences. He goes back to HMP Wandsworth, and they release him on the same day.